I woke up to divorce papers sliding across my hospital bed tray like a death sentence served with breakfast. The morphine made everything hazy, but those bold black letters cut through the fog with surgical precision. Petition for dissolution of marriage. My wife's signature at the bottom, dated yesterday, while I was still unconscious from spinal surgery. No note, no explanation, just legal documents and the metallic taste of betrayal coating my mouth like blood. My name is Ethan Caldwell, and until 48 hours ago, I thought I had it all figured out. At 34, I'd built Caldwell Tech Solutions from nothing into a multi-million-dollar consultancy. Fortune 500 companies paid premium rates for my cybersecurity expertise. My corner office overlooked downtown. My Porsche sat in the executive parking garage, and my wife Vanessa was the kind of woman who made other men jealous just by existing. We'd been married for 6 years. I met her at a charity gala. She was volunteering, radiant in a simple black dress that probably cost more than most people's rent. Vanessa had this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room when she smiled at you. Her laugh was infectious, her ambition inspiring. She ran a small but successful lifestyle blog, had dreams of building an empire, and I was more than happy to support those dreams. She moved into my penthouse 3 months after our first date. I proposed on the anniversary of the night we met, using my mother's engagement ring, a 1920s Art Deco piece that had been in the Caldwell family for generations. The wedding was everything she wanted, expensive, elegant, Instagram perfect. I didn't care about the cost. Seeing her happy made every penny worth it. For years, we were that couple everyone envied. She attended my business dinners, charming clients and investors with effortless grace. I supported her content creation, helped her navigate brand partnerships, celebrated every milestone in her growing online presence. When chronic back pain started affecting my work, she was my rock. Doctor's appointments, physical therapy sessions, late nights when the pain kept me awake. Vanessa was there through it all. "We're a team," she'd whisper during those dark 3 a.m. moments when the pain medication wasn't enough. "Whatever happens, we face it together." The surgery was supposed to fix everything. L4-L5 spinal fusion, risky but necessary. My orthopedic surgeon was confident, and Vanessa seemed equally optimistic. The night before the operation, she held my face in her hands and promised she'd be there when I woke up. "I'm not going anywhere, baby. You're stuck with me." I believed her completely. Looking back now, the signs were there, subtle cracks in the foundation I was too trusting to notice. It started with the phone calls. Vanessa had always been social, but in the weeks leading up to my surgery, she was constantly stepping out to take business calls. When I asked about them, she'd brush me off with vague mentions of new brand partnerships or content collaborations. Her laptop became password protected. She started receiving packages addressed to her maiden name, something she hadn't used since our wedding. Then there were the visits to her cousin Maya. Vanessa and Maya had never been particularly close, but suddenly they were having weekly lunch dates. When I suggested joining them, Vanessa would make excuses. "Girl talk? You'd be bored." Or, "Maya's going through relationship drama. She needs space to vent." The most telling sign was her social media behavior. Vanessa's entire brand was built on our relationship. Couple goals content, behind-the-scenes glimpses of our life together, romantic anniversary posts that generated thousands of likes. But in the month before my surgery, those posts became noticeably scarce. When I mentioned it, she claimed she was taking a break from oversharing and wanted to keep some things private. I should have trusted my instincts. The woman who had built her following on documenting every aspect of our relationship suddenly wanted privacy, but I was dealing with constant pain, focused on the upcoming surgery, and I wanted to believe the best about the woman I loved. The night before the operation, as she tucked me into bed and kissed my forehead, something felt different. Her touch was mechanical, perfunctory. She kept checking her phone even during our supposed quiet moments together. When I caught her texting at 11 p.m., she claimed it was her assistant coordinating content for while she'd be off the grid caring for me. "You don't need to put your whole life on hold," I told her, squeezing her hand. "I'll probably sleep through most of the recovery anyway." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I want to be here for you. That's what wives do." Those were the last words she spoke to me as my wife. The morning after I found the divorce papers, a nurse named Patricia brought my breakfast and sat down beside my bed with the kind of expression that meant bad news was coming. "Mr. Caldwell, I need to tell you something. Yesterday, while you were in surgery, your wife came by. She collected your personal belongings from the room, your wallet, clothes, jewelry, and asked us to give you this envelope when you woke up. She said she couldn't stay because of a family emergency." My wedding ring was gone. The Rolex my father gave me for my 30th birthday, gone. Even the get-well cards from my business partners had vanished. "What kind of family emergency?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. Patricia's face softened with pity. "She didn't specify, but honey, she didn't look like someone dealing with a crisis. She looked like someone who couldn't get out of here fast enough." That afternoon, I discovered the extent of the damage. My phone had been factory reset. Every joint account, checking, savings, investment portfolios, had been drained down to minimal balances. My credit cards were maxed out with cash advances I'd never authorized. The penthouse felt different when I called my neighbor. She confirmed that movers had come that morning, taking what looked like half the furniture. But the real knife twist came when I saw Vanessa's Instagram story that evening. There she was, perfectly lit by candlelight, tears glistening as she spoke to her phone camera about being abandoned by the person I loved most during his darkest hour. The caption read, "Sometimes the people we trust most show their true colors when we need them. I'm heartbroken, but I'll survive. Sending love to anyone else going through betrayal right now." The comments flooded in, thousands of them. "You deserve so much better, Queen. What a piece of garbage husband. Stay strong, beautiful." Her follower count jumped by 50,000 overnight. Brand collaboration offers started pouring into her DMs. She was monetizing my surgery, turning my medical crisis into her content goldmine. That's when something inside me shifted. The fog of betrayal cleared, replaced by cold, calculating fury. Vanessa thought she was smart, that she'd played the long game and won. She'd underestimated me completely. She forgot that I built my fortune by being 3 steps ahead of everyone else, and she'd just made the biggest mistake of her life. Over the next week, as I pretended to wallow in depression for the hospital staff, I began assembling the pieces of Vanessa's destruction. My first call was to David Chen, my family's attorney and one of my father's oldest friends. David had handled the legal structure of my business empire, and more importantly, he despised Vanessa with the passion of someone who'd seen through her act from day one. "Ethan, I've been waiting for this call for 6 years," he said when I explained the situation. "That woman is a predator, and now we're going to treat her like one." The beauty of my situation was that Vanessa had no idea how my assets were actually structured. The penthouse she thought she'd get half of, owned by the Caldwell Family Trust, with my father as the primary trustee. The business she assumed would fund her lifestyle, also trust property, requiring unanimous board approval for any major decisions, a board consisting of me, my father, and my Uncle Richard. Even better, I'd been documenting everything since the moment I woke up. Screenshots of her social media posts, time-stamped records of the drained accounts, security footage from the penthouse showing the movers she'd hired. Every piece of evidence meticulously cataloged and stored on encrypted servers. But I needed more than just financial documentation. I needed to prove malicious intent, and for that, I needed an inside source. Enter Maya Rodriguez, Vanessa's cousin, the same Maya who'd been having all those mysterious lunch dates with my wife. Maya and Vanessa had a complicated relationship, rooted in years of family drama and competition. Maya had always resented Vanessa's success, her perfect life, her ability to charm everyone around her. When I reached out to Maya through a mutual friend, she was more than willing to help. "She's been planning this for months," Maya told me during our first phone call. "She showed me text messages with some divorce attorney back in February, bragging about how she just had to play the loving wife until after the surgery, and then she could ghost him and take her payday. She called you pathetic, Ethan, said you were too trusting to see it coming." Maya had been recording their conversations on her phone. Insurance, she called it, in case Vanessa ever turned on her. Now those recordings were going to serve a different purpose entirely. The plan crystallized over the following weeks. I would let Vanessa think she'd won, allow her to continue building her victim narrative while I built an airtight case of fraud, theft, and emotional manipulation. My team would trace every financial transaction, document every lie, and prepare for a legal assault that would leave her with nothing but the clothes on her back. But the financial and legal destruction was only the beginning. Vanessa had built her entire identity around her online presence, her carefully curated image of perfection. I was going to systematically dismantle that image piece by piece until she became a cautionary tale instead of an inspiration. The first phase began immediately. While Vanessa continued posting her abandoned wife content and collecting sympathy followers, my cybersecurity team went to work tracing every digital footprint of her betrayal. What we found exceeded even my expectations. Vanessa hadn't just planned to leave me, she'd been systematically stealing from me for months. Cash transfers to accounts in her maiden name, forged signatures on withdrawal slips processed while I was unconscious from anesthesia, even attempts to access my business banking credentials using password recovery emails sent to her phone. My forensic accountant, Sarah Kim, laid it out in devastating detail. "She moved $400,000 from your joint accounts in the 6 hours you were in surgery. The bank has security footage of her at the ATM making maximum daily withdrawals on 3 different cards. She tried to wire transfer another $200,000 to an offshore account, but that got flagged by fraud protection systems. Meanwhile, Maya continued feeding me intelligence about Vanessa's true plans. The recordings she'd made were beyond damning. In one particularly revealing conversation, Vanessa laughed about how easy it had been to manipulate me. "He actually thinks I love him." God, Maya, the man is so pathetic. All those nights pretending to care about his back pain, rubbing his shoulders, playing nurse. I deserve an Oscar. But once he's out of surgery and all loopy on drugs, I'm gone. Clean break, maximum payout, and I get to play the victim on social media. It's actually genius. In another recording, she detailed her post-divorce plans. "I'm going to milk this for everything it's worth. Betrayed wife, abandoned during medical crisis. The sympathy content writes itself. I'll probably gain 100,000 followers just from the divorce announcement. Brands eat this stuff up." She'd even mocked my mother's engagement ring, which she'd apparently already had appraised. "That ugly old thing is worth 40 grand. I'm getting rid of it the second the papers are signed. Maybe I'll make a whole video about letting go of toxic memories when I sell it." By the time I was discharged from the hospital 6 weeks later, I had assembled a legal arsenal that would have made a prosecutor weep with joy. Bank records, security footage, recorded confessions, digital communications with divorce attorneys dated months before my surgery. Everything meticulously organized and verified by 3 different law firms. The court date was set for a Tuesday morning in October. Vanessa showed up looking like she was attending a fashion show rather than a legal proceeding. Designer dress, professional makeup, hair styled to perfection, she was clearly planning to turn even this into content opportunities. She barely acknowledged me as we sat on opposite sides of the courtroom, too busy posing for what I assumed were Instagram stories about her brave day in court. She had no idea what was coming. David stood up when the judge called the case, and I watched Vanessa's face shift from smug confidence to growing confusion as he began presenting our evidence. "Your Honor, we're not here to contest a divorce. We're here to expose a systematic campaign of fraud, theft, and emotional manipulation orchestrated by the plaintiff against my client while he was undergoing major medical surgery." Exhibit A. Bank records showing $400,000 transferred from joint accounts during my surgery. Exhibit B. Security footage of Vanessa at ATMs using my cards while I was unconscious. Exhibit C. Audio recordings of Vanessa admitting to months of premeditated deception. Exhibit D. Text messages between Vanessa and her divorce attorney dated 4 months before my surgery. Exhibit E. Digital evidence of attempted wire fraud to offshore accounts. The judge's expression grew colder with each piece of evidence. When David played the audio recording of Vanessa calling me pathetic and laughing about her deception, I saw her face drain of color completely. "Mrs. Caldwell," the judge said, his voice sharp enough to cut glass, "would you like to explain to this court why you believe you're entitled to any settlement from a marriage you systematically defrauded?" Vanessa's lawyer, a young public defender who'd clearly expected a simple no-contest divorce, looked like he wanted to disappear through the floor. Vanessa herself seemed incapable of speech. "Furthermore," the judge continued, "I'm ordering an immediate criminal investigation into allegations of fraud, forgery, and theft. Mrs. Caldwell, your assets are frozen pending resolution of these charges. You're also ordered to repay the stolen funds with interest and penalties." The divorce petition was dismissed. The criminal referral was filed. And I walked out of that courtroom knowing that Vanessa's real punishment was just beginning. The legal victory was satisfying, but watching Vanessa's carefully constructed world crumble was pure poetry. Within hours of the court transcript being filed as public record, my PR team released a carefully redacted version to select media outlets. The story exploded across social media. Instagram influencer exposed as fraud after abandoning husband during surgery. The hashtag Vanessa Caldwell exposed trended for 3 days. Her followers turned on her with the vicious intensity that only the internet can provide. Comment sections that had once been filled with heart-eye emojis and supportive messages became wastelands of accusations and mockery. Every post she'd made about being abandoned was screenshotted and reposted with laughing emojis. Memes featuring her face with captions like, "When you think you're the victim but you're actually the villain," went viral. The brand partnerships evaporated overnight. Luxury fashion companies, beauty brands, lifestyle products, everyone who'd been eager to work with the inspirational survivor wanted nothing to do with the exposed fraud. Her management company dropped her via a tersely worded email that somehow found its way to gossip blogs within hours. Maya, ever the opportunist, started her own Exposing My Cousin video series, revealing even more damaging details about Vanessa's character. The videos racked up millions of views, turning Maya into a minor influencer herself, while further destroying Vanessa's reputation. But the most devastating blow came from an unexpected source: my mother's engagement ring. Vanessa had indeed pawned it immediately after the surgery, just as she'd bragged about in Maya's recordings. When this became public, the jeweler who'd bought it offered to return the ring as a goodwill gesture, generating even more positive press for my side while highlighting Vanessa's callousness. The financial destruction was equally thorough. The court-ordered asset freeze meant Vanessa couldn't access any of the money she'd stolen. Her luxury apartment lease was terminated when she couldn't make rent. The car payments she'd been making with my credit cards resulted in repossession. Within a month, she'd gone from influencer lifestyle to selling designer handbags on Facebook Marketplace just to afford groceries. The criminal charges moved forward with efficiency that surprised even David. Prosecutors love slam-dunk cases, and Vanessa's crimes were documented so thoroughly that her public defender advised her to take a plea deal. She received 2 years probation, community service, and a restitution order that would keep her financially ruined for the foreseeable future. But perhaps the most satisfying moment came 6 months later, on a cold February evening. I was driving through the industrial part of town when I spotted a familiar figure behind the bulletproof glass of a rundown gas station. Vanessa, wearing a stained uniform shirt, mechanically scanning lottery tickets and energy drinks for customers who barely looked at her. She'd gained weight. Her famous hair was pulled back in a greasy ponytail. The manicured nails that had once held champagne glasses at charity galas were now chipped and stained with newsprint from handling magazines. I pulled up to the pump directly in front of the window and made sure she could see me clearly as I filled my tank. The new Porsche, an upgrade from the one she'd thought she'd get half of, gleamed under the harsh fluorescent lights. When I walked inside to pay, she kept her eyes fixed on the register, but I could see her hands shaking slightly. The name tag on her uniform shirt read V. Martinez. She'd gone back to her maiden name, probably to avoid the continued internet harassment that followed her married name. "Evening," I said pleasantly, sliding my credit card across the counter. She processed the payment without a word, without looking up. Her face was hollow, aged beyond her years. The woman who'd once commanded rooms with her presence now seemed to fold in on herself, desperate to avoid any kind of attention. As I turned to leave, I paused at the door. "Oh, Vanessa?" She finally looked up, and I saw something that satisfied me more than all the legal victories and financial recoveries combined. Complete and utter defeat in her eyes. "I hope you're doing well," I said with genuine warmth. "Really, I hope you've learned from your mistakes." The lie came so easily, so convincingly, that for a moment I almost believed it myself. 6 months later, Caldwell Tech Solutions opened its new regional headquarters in a gleaming tower downtown. The grand opening was covered by business journals and local news stations. My photo appeared on magazine covers with headlines like "Rising from Betrayal: How One CEO Turned Personal Destruction into Professional Triumph." I was profiled as a survivor, an inspiration, a man who'd overcome both physical and emotional trauma to build something even greater than before. The spine surgery that was supposed to be my lowest point became the foundation story of my greatest success. Late one evening, as I stood in my new corner office overlooking the city, my assistant brought me the latest social media monitoring report. Vanessa had finally returned to Instagram after months of silence. Her follower count had dropped from 800,000 to barely 12,000. Her most recent post, a generic sunset photo with some inspirational quote about new beginnings, had received exactly 7 likes. One of those likes was from Maya, who'd built her own following to over 300,000 by positioning herself as the whistleblower who'd exposed her cousin's fraud. Maya's bio now read, "Truth teller, fraud exposer. Sometimes blood isn't thicker than water." I closed the report and looked out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Vanessa was probably finishing her shift at the gas station, counting down the hours until she could go home to whatever cramped apartment she could afford on minimum wage. Tomorrow she'd wake up and do it all again, her dreams of influencer stardom and easy money buried under the weight of her own choices. The doctors had warned me that recovery from spinal surgery would be long and difficult, that I might never be the same person I was before. They were right, but not in the way they'd expected. I wasn't the same trusting, generous man who'd believed his wife's promises and ignored red flags. I was harder now, more calculating, less prone to sentiment. The betrayal had burned away every trace of naivety, leaving behind something sharper and more dangerous. Vanessa thought she was destroying me when she left those divorce papers on my hospital bed. Instead, she'd created the architect of her own destruction. And unlike her crime, my revenge would last forever, a permanent reminder to anyone who thought they could take advantage of Ethan Caldwell's trust. The billboard advertising our new headquarters was visible from the gas station where she worked. Every night, as she counted the register and locked up the shop, she could look up and see my face smiling down at the city I now owned a piece of. The tagline on that billboard, suggested by my marketing team, read, "Built from rock bottom, fueled by betrayal, stronger than ever." I couldn't have written it better myself. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.